Welcome to the Hidden Wealth Coins. These coins may look like ordinary pocket change, but hidden within them are secrets that could change everything you think you know about money. From rare mint errors to hidden silver compositions and ultra-high grade treasures, these Jefferson Nickels and U.S. coins carry stories of unbelievable value. Some have sold for thousands, even tens of thousands, and collectors believe a few still remain undiscovered today, waiting to turn an ordinary person into an overnight fortune hunter. First up, the moment you hear the words 1964 Jefferson Nickel, you might think of a simple 5-cent coin, something ordinary, something forgettable. But what if I told you that hidden among billions of these coins are a few rare pieces so valuable they could silently change your entire life overnight? Yes, a coin most people ignore could secretly hold a fortune waiting to be discovered. Back in 1964, the United States Mint was producing nickels in massive numbers. In fact, billions of these coins were struck, making it one of the most common coins ever created. At first glance, this might sound disappointing, because when something is common, it usually isn't valuable. And that's true for most of these coins. Many are still worth just 5 cents today. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Not all 1964 Jefferson Nickels are the same. A tiny fraction of these coins were struck with extraordinary precision, rare minting characteristics, or unusual errors. These are the coins collectors hunt for. These are the coins that can transform an ordinary piece of metal into a treasure worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. To truly understand the magic of this coin, you have to look closely at its design. On one side, you see Thomas Jefferson, calm and dignified. On the other side, his iconic home, Monticello. But the real secret lies in the tiny steps of Monticello. Collectors call them full steps. And if those steps appear complete and sharply detailed, your coin instantly becomes rare and highly desirable. Now imagine holding a coin where every tiny step is perfectly visible, untouched, and flawless. That kind of perfection is incredibly rare because most coins were heavily circulated and worn down over time. When a 1964 nickel survives in such pristine condition, its value can jump from a few cents to hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Old Coin Online +1. But the story doesn't stop there. Some of the most valuable 1964 nickels come from something even more mysterious: special mint strikes. These coins were not meant for everyday use. They were produced with extra care, featuring a smooth, satin-like finish and sharper details. When these rare specimens appear in near-perfect condition, they have been known to sell for astonishing amounts, reaching into the tens of thousands. The viral post +1. And then come the errors, the beautiful mistakes that make collectors go crazy. Imagine a coin where the design is slightly doubled, where letters appear shadowed, or where the image is struck off-center. These errors weren't planned, but that's exactly what makes them valuable. A simple minting mistake can turn a common coin into a rare collectible worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Old Coin Online. One of the most exciting things about the 1964 Jefferson Nickel is that some of these rare coins are still out there, hidden in drawers, jars, and old collections. People have unknowingly spent them, ignored them, or passed them down without realizing their true worth. That means there is still a chance, a real chance, that someone watching this would already own one. However, it's important to stay grounded in reality. Not every 1964 nickel is valuable. In fact, the vast majority are extremely common and worth only their face value. This coin was made in huge quantities, which means finding a rare one is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Coin bin. But here's the thrilling part. That needle does exist, and when it's found, it can be life-changing. There have been rare examples of this coin selling for over $30,000 at auctions, simply because they had the perfect combination of condition, rarity, and unique features. Bullion shark. Think about that for a moment. A 5-cent coin turning into tens of thousands of dollars. It sounds unbelievable, almost like a dream. Yet, for collectors and lucky finders, this dream has already become reality. The key is knowledge. Knowing what to look for, understanding the tiny details, and paying attention to condition can make all the difference. A worn coin might be worthless, but a sharp, clean, perfectly struck coin could be a hidden gem. So before you ignore that old nickel, before you spend it without a second thought, take a closer look. Examine the details. Look at the steps, the shine, the precision, because sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest surprises. In the end, the 1964 Jefferson Nickel is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that value isn't always obvious, that hidden treasures can exist in plain sight, and that sometimes something as simple as a 5-cent coin can carry the power to change your fortune overnight. Second up, at first glance, the 1965 D. Jefferson Nickel looks completely ordinary. A simple 5-cent coin, passed from hand to hand, ignored in pockets and forgotten in jars. But what if that same tiny piece of metal could secretly hold a life-changing value? What if one version of this coin could turn an ordinary person into someone who discovers hidden wealth overnight? The Jefferson Nickel has always been a symbol of everyday American money. Featuring Thomas Jefferson on the front and Monticello on the back, it was designed to be simple, stable, and mass-produced. In 1965, something important happened in U.S. coin production. The system changed, and billions of nickels were struck, including those with a D mint mark from Denver. Most people assume these coins are all the same, but history tells a different story. The 1965 D nickel is extremely common in circulation. Millions were made, and most of them are still worth only their face value. However, hidden among them are rare pieces that collectors chase like buried treasure. These rare versions are not obvious at first glance. You need a sharp eye, patience, and knowledge to spot them. The real magic of this coin lies in condition. A worn-out nickel is almost worthless beyond 5 cents, but a perfectly preserved example can become something entirely different. When the surface is clean, the details are sharp, and the strike is full and untouched, the coin begins to transform into a collectible piece rather than just currency. One of the most exciting features collectors look for is strong strike quality. On Jefferson's portrait in Monticello's building, even the smallest sharp details matter. If the lines are crisp and the steps of Monticello appear complete and well-defined, the coin instantly gains attention in the collecting world. These subtle differences separate common change from hidden treasures. Now imagine an error coin, a rare accident during minting. Sometimes the design may be slightly double misaligned or struck with unusual pressure. These mistakes were never meant to happen, but they are exactly what makes certain coins extremely valuable today. A simple minting flaw can turn a 5-cent piece into something worth hundreds or even thousands. There are also special uncirculated examples of the 1965 D nickel that survive without ever entering heavy circulation. These coins were stored carefully, protected from scratches and wear. When such a coin appears in near-perfect condition, collectors become highly interested because surviving examples like that are extremely limited. But here's where things get even more exciting. Rarity is not always obvious. Many people have handled these coins without realizing their importance. They might be sitting in old coin jars, inherited collections, or forgotten drawers. The truth is, valuable coins don't always look special at first glance. Sometimes they hide in plain sight. However, it is important to stay realistic. Not every 1965 D. Jefferson Nickel is valuable. In fact, the vast majority are extremely common. The hype around coins often makes people believe every old nickel is worth a fortune, but only a very small number have true collector value based on condition or error characteristics. Still, the potential is what keeps collectors searching. Even a single rare discovery can change everything. Some well-preserved or error versions of Jefferson nickels have sold for surprising amounts in collector markets, sometimes reaching hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on uniqueness and demand. The real power of this coin lies in knowledge. If someone understands what to look for, sharp details, unusual strikes, mint errors, and uncirculated surfaces, they suddenly have an advantage. Without that knowledge, the coin remains just pocket change. With it, the same coin becomes potential treasure. The 1965 D. Jefferson Nickel represents something bigger than money. It represents the idea that hidden value can exist in everyday life. Something ignored by millions of people can still hold rare beauty and unexpected worth for those who take a closer look. Collectors around the world continue searching for these small treasures, hoping to find that one special coin that stands out from the rest. It is not just about money. It is about discovery, history, and the thrill of finding something rare in a world full of ordinary objects. In the end, the 1965 Jefferson Nickel teaches a powerful lesson. Never judge value by appearance alone. Sometimes the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprise. And for those lucky enough to find a rare or perfect example, even something as small as 5 cents can feel like discovering hidden fortune waiting quietly in your hands. Third up, at first glance, the 1943 Jefferson Nickel looks like just another ordinary 5-cent coin, something you might ignore in your pocket or throw into a jar without a second thought. But when you dig into its history, you realize this small coin was born during one of the most dramatic times in human history, World War II, when even the metal inside coins was changed to the war effort. In 1943, the United States was fully involved in wartime production, and materials like nickel and copper were urgently needed for weapons and military equipment. Because of this, the U.S. Mint changed the composition of nickels during this period. Instead of the usual metal mix, war nickels were created using a special alloy that included silver, making them historically unique compared to normal coins. The 1943 Jefferson Nickel, struck in Philadelphia, carries a small P mint mark above Monticello on the reverse side. This was a major change in U.S. coin history because it was one of the first times the Philadelphia Mint officially marked its coins with a P. That detail alone makes it an important piece for collectors and historians. Most of these coins entered circulation during the war and were heavily used by the public. Because of this, the majority of surviving examples today are worn and common. In normal condition, they are still only worth a small amount above face value. But the true story begins when you start looking at condition, rarity, and unusual features. A 1943 Jefferson Nickel in extremely high condition, meaning it has strong details, original shine, and minimal surface damage, becomes far more interesting to collectors. Coins that survive decades without scratches are rare because most were used in everyday transactions during difficult times. Another fascinating aspect is the possibility of minting errors. Sometimes coins were struck with slight misalignments, doubling of letters, or unusual surface marks caused during production. These errors were never intentional, but they are exactly what makes certain coins stand out in the collector's world and increase their desirability. Since this is a war nickel, it also contains silver content, unlike modern nickels. While the silver percentage is not extremely high, it still gives the coin intrinsic metal value and makes it historically different from standard circulation coins produced before and after the war era. However, the idea that a 1943 nickel is worth millions is not realistic in most cases. The majority of these coins remain common collectibles. Even well-preserved examples typically reach modest collector prices rather than life-changing fortunes. Only extremely rare combinations of perfect condition and unusual mint errors may bring higher values. Still, what makes this coin exciting is a possibility factor. Somewhere out there, a rare version could exist in a forgotten collection or old coin jar. That possibility keeps collectors searching, examining every small detail, hoping to discover something extraordinary hidden in plain sight. The real value of the 1943 Jefferson Nickel is not just money, it is history. It represents a time when even small coins were changed to support a global war effort. Holding one is like holding a piece of America's wartime economy, shaped by urgency and national sacrifice. Collectors often view war nickels like this as gateway coins into serious numismatics. They are not extremely expensive, but they teach people how to study details like mint marks, strikes, surface quality, and composition. That learning journey is what makes coin collecting deeply rewarding. Many of these coins still exist today in old storage boxes, inherited collections, and forgotten household jars. People may have handled them for years without realizing their historical importance. This hidden nature is part of what keeps interest alive in coins like the 1943 nickel. But it is important to remain realistic. While stories of extreme wealth are exciting, true coin value depends on rarity, condition, grading, and collector demand. Most 1943 P-nickels will never reach extraordinary prices, but they still carry historical and collectible significance. At the same time, the excitement of discovery is what makes this coin special. The idea that a small, overlooked object could turn out to be something valuable keeps people curious and attentive. That curiosity is the heart of coin collecting. In the end, the 1943 P. Jefferson Nickel is not just about money or dreams of sudden wealth. It is about history, wartime innovation, silver composition, and the hidden stories inside everyday currency. And sometimes, the greatest value a coin holds is not just its price, but the moment it connects us to past. Fourth up, at first glance, the 1945 S. Jefferson Nickel looks like nothing more than a simple piece of everyday change, something you might barely notice in your pocket. But when you take a closer look at its story, you enter a completely different world. A world shaped by war, recovery, and a quiet evolution of American coinage during one of the most important periods in history. The year 1945 marked the final chapter of World War II, and America was still deeply influenced by wartime production demands. Even small objects like nickels carried meaning during this era. The Jefferson Nickel, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the front and Monticello on the back, continued to be produced, but each coin from this time reflects a nation transitioning from war to peace. The 1945 S. Jefferson Nickel was struck in San Francisco, identified by the small S mint mark on the reverse side above Monticello. Coins from this mint often had slightly lower production numbers compared to Philadelphia, which sometimes give them added collector interest, especially when found in exceptional condition. Most of these coins entered circulation immediately and were used heavily in everyday transactions. As a result, the majority of surviving examples today show visible wear, scratches, and loss of detail. This is normal for a coin that has been handled millions of times over decades, which is why truly well-preserved pieces stand out more than people expect. The real attention in the coin world begins when a 1945 S. Jefferson Nickel is found in extremely high-grade condition, when the surface still shows original luster and the details of Jefferson's face and Monticello remain sharp and untouched. Collectors see it very differently from a normal circulated coin. Condition becomes everything. Another factor that increases interest is strike quality. Some coins were produced with stronger or weaker pressure during minting, leading to differences in how sharp the design appears. A sharply struck 1945 S. nickel with clear steps on Monticello can attract more attention from collectors than a weaker example. There are also rare minting anomalies that can appear in coins like this. Sometimes slight doubling of text, minor off-center strikes, or unusual surface characteristics occur during production. These are not common, but when they do appear, they can make a coin more desirable to collectors who specialize in era varieties. It is also important to understand that the 1945 S. Jefferson Nickel does not belong to the ultra-rare category of American coins. While it has historical value and collectible interest, it was produced in large numbers, meaning most examples are still relatively accessible in the coin market today. Because of this, the idea that a 1945 S. nickel is worth extreme amounts like millions is not realistic in normal circumstances. Most coins of this type, even in decent condition, remain affordable and are valued more for their historical background than for extraordinary monetary worth. However, exceptional examples do exist in higher grades. Coins that have been preserved carefully for decades without circulation damage can achieve stronger prices in collector markets. But even then, their value depends heavily on certification, condition grading, and buyer demand at the time of sale. What truly makes the 1945 S. Jefferson Nickel interesting is not the fantasy of sudden wealth, but the connection it carries to history. It represents the final days of a global conflict and the beginning of a new economic era. That story alone gives the coin meaning beyond its face value. Many collectors enjoy coins like this because they are accessible yet historically rich. It allows beginners and experienced collectors alike to explore details like mint marks, surface preservation, and design clarity without needing extremely rare or expensive pieces. It is also common for people to discover these coins in old family collections or mixed coin jars, where they have been stored for decades without attention. This quiet presence in everyday life adds to the excitement of coin hunting and collecting. Still, It is important to stay grounded when exploring coin values. While stories of extreme wealth can sound exciting, real numismatic value is based on rarity, condition, and verified market demand. Most 1945 Jefferson Nickels are valuable as collectibles, not as life-changing assets. In the end, the 1945 Jefferson Nickel is a reminder that even the smallest objects can carry history within them. It may not turn someone into a millionaire overnight, but it holds something just as meaningful, a direct connection to a world shaped by war, resilience, and change, preserved quietly in a small 5-cent coin. Fifth up, at first glance, the 1985 Jefferson Nickel looks completely ordinary, almost forgettable. It is the kind of coin that passes through thousands of hands every single day without anyone giving a second thought. But what if I told you that even a modern-looking nickel like this could still carry hidden surprises that collectors quietly search for? By 1985, the United States Mint was producing coins in massive quantities with highly efficient modern machinery. The D Mint mark on this nickel indicates it was struck in Denver, one of the major U.S. minting facilities. Unlike older wartime nickels, this coin contains no silver and was designed purely for circulation in a stable modern economy. Because billions of coins were made in the 1980s, the 1985 Jefferson Nickel is considered extremely common. Most examples are still worth only their face value. You can find them in pocket change, vending machines, or old coin jars without any difficulty. At first look, it seems impossible that such a coin could ever become valuable. But coin collecting is never just about age. It is about condition, rarity, and mistakes. Even a modern coin like the 1985 nickel can become interesting if it survives in absolutely perfect condition. A coin that has never been circulated, never scratched, and still shows strong mint luster can stand out dramatically compared to normal worn examples. One of the key factors collectors examine is surface quality. If a 1985 nickel retains a brilliant, untouched shine and shows sharp details on Jefferson's face in Monticello, it becomes more desirable. These coins are known as high-grade uncirculated examples, and they are far less common than people assume. Another possibility lies in mint errors. Even in modern production, machines are not perfect. Sometimes coins are struck slightly off-center, or design elements may appear doubled due to die movement during production. These small mistakes can turn an ordinary coin into a collectible curiosity. However, it is very important to understand reality. The 1985 Jefferson Nickel is not a rare coin in general circulation. There are no widely recognized million-dollar versions of this specific date in normal numismatic history. Most of its value remains tied to face value, unless something unusual is present. Still, collectors enjoy searching for exceptional examples because condition can create surprises. A perfectly preserved specimen graded at very high mint state levels can sometimes sell for more than face value, especially if it is part of a high-end certified collection set. The idea of extreme wealth from this coin is mostly a myth created by online exaggeration. In reality, modern nickels like this rarely reach extraordinary values unless they involve dramatic mint errors or are part of special certified conditions that are extremely rare. But what makes the 1985 Jefferson Nickel interesting is not just money, it is its place in the timeline of American coin production. It represents a period when coin minting had become highly industrialized, precise, and efficient, with less variation compared to earlier decades. This lack of variation actually makes error coins even more noticeable when they appear. A small mistake in a modern coin stands out more because everything else is usually so uniform and standardized. That contrast is what excites collectors. Many of these coins are still sitting unnoticed in circulation or storage boxes. People often overlook them because they seem too recent to be valuable. But coin history teaches us that value is not always about age. It is about rarity within a system. Even though the 1985 nickel is not a hidden fortune waiting to make someone rich overnight, it still holds educational value for collectors. It helps people understand grading, mint marks, and the difference between common and exceptional coins. In the end, the 1985 Jefferson Nickel is a reminder that not every coin is a treasure, but every coin has a story. While it may not turn someone into a billionaire, it still reflects the precision of modern minting and the quiet world of collecting, where even small details matter more than expected. Sixth up, at first glance, the 1965 Jefferson Nickel with no mint mark looks completely normal, almost like the most ordinary coin you could imagine. It passes through hands every day, gets ignored in pockets, and often ends up forgotten in old jars. But what if I told you that this very coin sits in one of the most misunderstood periods of American coin history? The year 1965 was a turning point for U.S. coin production. The country had just moved away from silver coinage in dimes and quarters, and the minting system was going through major changes. During this transition, nickels continued to be produced in massive numbers, and Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark at all, which is why the 1965 nickel appears blank, where collectors usually expect a small letter. Because of the huge production numbers, most 1965 no-mint mark Jefferson nickels are extremely common. They were made for everyday circulation in an expanding economy, meaning billions entered use almost immediately. This is why, in normal condition, these coins are still worth only their face value today. However, coin collectors know that common does not always mean worthless. The real interest begins when condition and detail come into play. A 1965 nickel that has never been circulated, with full original shine and sharp design details, becomes far more desirable than a worn example that has passed through decades of use. One of the most important visual elements on Jefferson nickels is the Monticello design on the reverse side. When the steps of Monticello appear sharp and fully defined, collectors immediately take notice. Coins with weak or worn steps are common, but those with strong details are much harder to find in high grade. There are also rare minting anomalies that can occur even in modern coins like this one. Sometimes the strike may be slightly off-center, or certain design elements may show doubling due to die movement during production. These variations are not common, but when they appear, they attract collector attention. Still, it is important to stay realistic. The 1965 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel is not a rare coin in the true numismatic sense. There are no verified examples that reach extreme or million-dollar values under normal collecting standards. Most claims of extraordinary wealth from this coin are exaggerations found in online hype. In reality, value comes mainly from condition. A top-grade uncirculated example certified by grading services may have a modest collector premium, but remains far from life-changing money. The vast majority of these coins remain extremely affordable and widely available. What makes this coin interesting is not its market price, but its role in a transitional era of U.S. coinage. It represents a time when production was becoming more modern, standardized, and efficient, reducing variations but increasing consistency in design. Because of the standardization, any unusual variation becomes more noticeable. Collectors often examine these coins closely to find subtle differences in strike quality, surface texture, or alignment. Even small imperfections can create curiosity in the numismatic community. Many of these coins are still sitting unnoticed in circulation or storage. People often dismiss them because they seem too modern to be valuable. But this is exactly why coin collecting remains interesting. Value is not always obvious at first glance. However, it is important to separate excitement from reality. While stories of massive hidden wealth sound thrilling, true coin value depends on verified rarity, strong condition grading, and genuine collector demand. Most 1965 no-mint mark nickels do not meet those rare criteria. Still, the idea of searching for hidden value keeps collectors engaged. Every coin becomes a possibility, even if the chances are small. That curiosity is what drives people to look closer, learn more, and understand the history behind what they hold. In the end, the 1965 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is not a secret millionaire coin, but it is still a small piece of American minting history. Its real value lies in what it teaches. That even the most ordinary-looking object can have layers of history behind it, even if its market price remains simple and humble. Seventh up, at first glance, the 1978 Jefferson nickel looks like one of the most ordinary coins in modern American circulation. It is small, simple, and completely overlooked by most people who handle it every day. But even coins like this carry a hidden story that connects to the larger evolution of U.S. money in the late 20th century. By 1978, the United States Mint had become extremely efficient in producing coins. Millions upon millions of nickels were struck every year, designed purely for everyday transactions. The Jefferson design remained unchanged, with Thomas Jefferson on the front and Monticello on the back, symbolizing stability and continuity in American coinage. Because of this massive production, the 1978 nickel is very common. Most examples you find today are heavily circulated, scratched, and worn down. In normal condition, these coins have no special value beyond 5 cents, which is why most people never think twice before spending them. However, coin collectors always look beyond the surface. The true interest in any coin, including the 1978 Jefferson nickel, comes from condition. A coin that has never been used in circulation, preserved with its original mint luster and sharp details, instantly becomes more desirable in the collecting world. One of the key features collectors examine is the quality of the strike. On Jefferson nickels, details like Jefferson's facial features and the Monticello building on the reverse side are carefully studied. When these elements appear crisp and fully defined, the coin is considered higher grade and more attractive to collectors. Another factor that can increase interest is minting variation. Even in modern production, small differences can occur during striking. Sometimes coins may show slight doubling of design elements or minor imperfections caused during the minting process. These variations are not extremely common, but they do attract attention in numismatic circles. Still, it is very important to remain realistic. The 1978 Jefferson nickel is not a rare coin in the traditional sense. There are no widely recognized versions of this coin that reach extreme or million-dollar values under standard collecting conditions. Most claims of extraordinary wealth connected to it are exaggerated. In reality, most 1978 nickels remain common and widely available. Even well-preserved examples usually only gain modest collector premiums depending on their condition. The coin's value is mainly tied to grading quality rather than rarity or historical uniqueness. What makes this coin interesting is its place in modern American coin history. It represents a period when U.S. currency production was highly industrialized, with consistency and efficiency prioritized over variation. This makes coins from this era uniform but less likely to contain significant rarity. Because of this uniformity, collectors sometimes focus more on condition rather than rarity. A coin that survives decades without damage becomes more valuable simply because so few remain in untouched condition. Preservation becomes the key factor rather than age or design. Many 1978 Jefferson nickels are still in circulation or stored away in old collections. People often ignore them because they appear too modern to be valuable. But coin collecting teaches an important lesson. Value is not always about age. It is about uniqueness within survival. However, it is necessary to stay grounded. While stories online may suggest extreme wealth from common coins, real numismatic value depends on verified rarity, certified grading, and actual market demand. The 1978 nickel does not fall into the category of high-value rare coins. Even so, collectors continue to study coins like this because they help build understanding of grading systems, mint production quality, and subtle design differences. Every coin becomes a learning tool in the broader world of numismatics. In the end, the 1978 Jefferson nickel is not a hidden fortune waiting to make someone rich overnight. Instead, it is a simple but meaningful piece of modern coin history, a reminder that most value is not found in fantasy prices, but in understanding, condition, and the quiet story every coin carries through time.